Imagine being just 20 years old and suddenly becoming the king of a powerful kingdom. Now imagine that before your 33rd birthday, you had conquered one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, defeated every major army that stood against you, founded dozens of cities, and changed history forever. This isn't a legend or a fictional story. This is the extraordinary life of Alexander the Great, one of the greatest military commanders in history. Alexander was born in 356 BC in the Kingdom of Macedonia, located just north of Greece. His father, King Philip II, was a brilliant military strategist who transformed Macedonia into the strongest kingdom in Greece. His mother, Queen Olympias, believed that her son was destined for greatness. From a young age, Alexander grew up listening to stories of legendary heroes like Achilles and Heracles. Unlike other children, he didn't just admire these heroes. He wanted to become greater than all of them. One famous story from Alexander's childhood perfectly revealed his intelligence. A horse trader brought a magnificent black horse named Bucephalus to King Philip. The horse was wild, powerful, and impossible to ride. Every experienced rider who tried was thrown off. While everyone believed the horse was dangerous, young Alexander noticed something different. The horse was frightened by its own shadow. He calmly turned the horse toward the sun so it could no longer see the shadow, gently spoke to it, and climbed onto its back. To everyone's amazement, the horse became completely calm. Alexander rode it successfully, and King Philip proudly declared, "My son, Macedonia is too small for you. You must find a kingdom worthy of yourself." As Alexander grew older, his father hired one of history's greatest philosophers, Aristotle, to educate him. Under Aristotle, Alexander studied philosophy, science, geography, medicine, politics, and literature. These lessons made him not only a fearless warrior, but also an intelligent leader who respected knowledge. He especially loved Homer's Iliad and dreamed of achieving immortal fame like the hero Achilles. Alexander proved himself in battle while still a teenager. At the age of 16, he was left in charge of Macedonia while his father was away. When a nearby tribe rebelled, Alexander crushed the uprising and even founded a new city. 2 years later, he fought beside his father in the famous Battle of Chaeronea, where his courageous cavalry charge helped secure victory. Everyone now recognized that the young prince was destined to become a great commander. Everything changed in 336 BC, when King Philip II was assassinated during a royal celebration. At just 20 years old, Alexander became king. Many Greek cities believed he was too young and inexperienced to rule, so they revolted. Alexander responded with incredible speed. He marched across Greece, forcing city after city to surrender. The city of Thebes resisted, but Alexander destroyed it completely, sending a powerful message that no one should challenge his authority. After that, all of Greece accepted him as their leader. With Greece united, Alexander turned his attention toward the greatest empire in the world, the Persian Empire, ruled by King Darius III. Persia was enormous, stretching across millions of square kilometers, and most people believed it could never be conquered. But Alexander thought differently. In 334 BC, he crossed into Asia with around 40,000 soldiers. His first major battle took place at the Granicus River. Despite attacking across a dangerous river against a larger enemy force, Alexander achieved a stunning victory. This success inspired many Greek cities under Persian control to welcome him as a liberator rather than an invader. Soon after, Alexander faced King Darius himself at the Battle of Issus. Although Darius commanded a much larger army, Alexander led a daring cavalry charge directly toward the Persian king. Seeing Alexander racing toward him, Darius panicked and fled the battlefield. Once their king escaped, the Persian army collapsed. Alexander won one of the greatest victories of his career and even captured Darius's family. Surprisingly, he treated them with kindness and respect instead of revenge, earning admiration from both friends and enemies. Alexander continued south until he reached the wealthy island city of Tyre. Protected by massive walls and surrounded by the sea, Tyre believed it could never be conquered. Instead of giving up, Alexander ordered his soldiers to build a giant stone bridge from the mainland to the island. After 7 exhausting months of construction and fighting, his army finally broke through the city's defenses and captured Tyre. It was another victory that proved Alexander never accepted defeat. Next, Alexander marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a hero because the Egyptians hated Persian rule. He was crowned pharaoh and founded a new city called Alexandria, which later became one of the greatest centers of learning and trade in the ancient world. But Alexander's greatest battle was still ahead. In 331 BC, he met King Darius one final time at the Battle of Gaugamela. Even though the Persian army greatly outnumbered his own, Alexander used brilliant tactics to create a gap in the enemy lines. He then led a direct charge toward Darius. Once again, the Persian king fled, and his army fell apart. This victory ended the Persian Empire forever and made Alexander the ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen. Most kings would have stopped there. Alexander didn't. He continued east through the mountains of Central Asia and eventually entered India. There he faced one of his toughest opponents, King Porus, at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. For the first time, Alexander encountered hundreds of war elephants. These enormous animals terrified his horses and crushed soldiers beneath their feet. The battle was long and bloody, but Alexander eventually emerged victorious. After the battle, the defeated King Porus was brought before Alexander. Instead of begging for mercy, Porus stood proudly. Alexander asked him, "How should I treat you?" Porus replied, "Treat me as one king should treat another." Impressed by his courage, Alexander returned his kingdom and even gave him more land. It was a rare act of respect between two great rulers. By now, however, Alexander's soldiers had marched for nearly 10 years. They were exhausted, homesick, and thousands of kilometers away from their families. When Alexander announced his plan to continue deeper into India, his army finally refused. For the first time in his life, Alexander could not persuade his own men to follow him. Reluctantly, he turned back. The journey home was brutal. Crossing scorching deserts and harsh landscapes, thousands of soldiers died from heat, thirst, and exhaustion. Yet Alexander continued to share every hardship with his men, earning their loyalty until the very end. In 323 BC, after returning to Babylon, Alexander suddenly became seriously ill following a banquet. His fever grew worse each day until he could no longer speak. At only 32 years old, the greatest conqueror of the ancient world died under mysterious circumstances. Historians still debate whether he died from disease, infection, or poisoning. The true cause remains unknown. Alexander left behind no clear successor, and within a few years his enormous empire broke apart as his generals fought one another for power. Yet his legacy never disappeared. He founded more than 20 cities, spread Greek culture across 3 continents, inspired future emperors like Julius Caesar and Napoleon, and revolutionized military strategy forever. Perhaps the most astonishing fact about Alexander isn't how much land he conquered. It's how little time he had. In just 13 years, he created an empire stretching from Greece to Egypt and all the way to India. He never lost a single major battle, and more than 2,000 years later, his name still stands as a symbol of ambition, courage, and extraordinary leadership. Alexander the Great proved that one determined individual can change the course of history. His empire eventually vanished, but his legend became immortal.